8, we got jungle bans aplenty. Zac, Nidalee, Rek'Sai, Elise, definitely things to see as well, potentially.
Yeah, and that's 2 out of 2 games Zac has been banned against Meteos. He's getting a lot of respect for his individual performances on this champion, which can unlock other picks for them and should give them an advantage in this.
I think it's also interesting that in this group, it was actually a different team that played Zac against the Flash Wolves.
Yeah.
And they do not want to have a repeat of the pick potential specifically because Zac was very pivotal in preventing Karsa and SwordArt from setting up the appropriate vision with which to play the macro game towards victory.
What does this Cassio and Syndra bans mean for the mid lane? What are we expecting to see Jensen and Maple potentially pick up?
Well, the Cassio ban in particular is something Jensen did excel with in a lot of games. He just had a poor performance against Faker, so I still think that's a respect ban. Syndra being out, though, does open up some possibilities.
It certainly does, and Vladimir is still on the table here. It's not going to be banned out as Rek'Sai gets taken away, and Vladimir is a champion that we have not seen a lot of throughout Worlds, mostly because it's getting banned.
And you have to wonder what the first pick actually is here.
Rumble.
Elise
Very
is
quick.
high on our priority lists. Lee Sin has been high on a lot of other priority lists. We've seen it picked multiple times up. The Lee Sin above the Elise has happened on multiple occasions.
Yeah, and I actually feel like this opens up for a lot of power picks here for C9 because they get the first crack at jungle. They get the first crack at mid lane if they want to go that route. If they want to grab something like the Elise Vladimir, it could be pretty powerful.
It really depends on where they want to play the map.
Yeah.
Karma was a bigger pick in North American LCS than I think it was in other regions, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did go with the Karma. I think the other options are locking down some very strong duos. So you'd pick your support AD here or your top jungle here and get a really good gank synergy or strong lane.
If I recall correctly, Nami does relatively well into that Karma if it was going to go the support role, and we've seen Nami very high priority, first picked on day 1 of groups a couple times. So a lot of these counter picks that could come out depending on what C9 lock in now.
We also know the priority individually for Sneaky with the Jhin. He's a fantastic Jhin player, got to ban against him a lot, but it is going to be Meteos going right back to that Lee Sin. Received a decent amount of criticism for his performance against SKT. People felt he was not getting involved in the game early and often enough. We'll see if he can bounce back here.
But we also do have to talk about the draft that they had the first time he picked Lee Sin. He didn't have any setup CC. They picked it with the Rumble and a Cassiopeia. I really hope that this game, Cloud9 can have a Kennen or some type of CC setup in one of their lanes so that Meteos can have more effective ganks and take advantage of Lee Sin's insane early game damage.
And speaking of that Kennen, it is available. It's something that Impact could go to. I would like to see him play something that he has the potential to take over a lane on. He has shown the ability to be very lane dominant in the NALCS playoffs, in the regional qualifiers. I want to see him go back to it.
A couple of hovers around different picks. Sivir still up and available. I only say that because I saw the Skarner for a second, but I got too excited. It is going to be the Elise lock-in and that Nami, somewhat expected if Smoothie is going to get these hands on Karma.
But we have to remember, Jensen could flex this to mid lane if they do feel like that's something they want to go with. Smoothie is fantastic support player on the melee supports as well, and Nami has the ability to be all-in like picks with Alistar. We've seen that kind of go awry for the Nami.
I think that is a possibility, but I also think it's relatively unlikely for C9 to do so. Jensen almost always played the hard carries in the regular season, and it was the other North American LCS teams, like the Immortals, that would play it in the mid lane. And I think that's the mindset the Flash Wolves is on as well, because picking the Nami early is almost expecting to be laning against the Karma.
So as is customary for C9,
Kennen.
Yeah, Kennen comes in, the Caitlyn as well, but they're going to leave that counter pick for Jensen, very likely. They love to do this in their picks and bans. A lot of priority goes over to Jensen, both in the farm and in the pick ban. They have a lot of respect for this guy's strength as a player. He didn't show it yesterday against Faker, and he's going to be a man on a mission today against Maple.
Couldn't maybe. The matchup was incredibly difficult. This time around, it feels like C9 haven't put themselves in the same sort of picks and bans holes or risky picks and bans that we saw from yesterday. Flash Wolves have got 20 seconds to round out their comp. They're looking for an ADC and a top laner. Who do they add with Nami into what is expected to be Caitlyn? Nami, for the time being, looks like Ezreal.
Yeah, it would be a fairly poke-heavy composition if they do these two things, but I do like the synergy between Varus and Rumble if this is what they decide to go with.
And Varus as a mid laner, quite strong, but we could even see Jensen go the way of something like a LeBlanc if this gets locked in. I have seen that sort of matchup played if you want to get aggressive, if you have the confidence to really fight that guy in lane, but there's a lot of options here for Jensen as Varus does get locked in.
I think it's also very dangerous of Flash Wolves to be picking a poke composition when the other team already has Karma, Elise, and Kennen. That's a tremendous amount of initiation with more still possibly to come. I don't even think Jensen would have to pick a hard initiator. He could do something like Vladimir and they would still potentially be able to start fights if C9 execute properly.
I also think that Vladimir, if you want to go for that 1-3-1 type style, I think it can work out pretty well because Flash Rolls don't really have anyone who's kind of screams split push to me. Rumble is much more of the team fighter. Varus does not want to be alone in those side lanes clearing waves, and champions like Vladimir, like the Kennen, are more comfortable doing that.
Find out what Jensen decides to lock in.
Ori.
Bit of a shout out to Twitter, I think, on the Ziggs Hobber for now. Orianna would round out fairly safe, definitely give you even more wombo power with so many ball delivery systems as well. The Kennen, the Lee Sin, the movement speed. It will time out, and that's locked in.
And it also leaves a good window for them to have Sneaky as a very late game hyper carry. They'll have potentially Lee Sin, Orianna, and Karma shields that are able to throw on him. So it gives them that late game insurance with that choice.
And Sneaky and Smoothie actually performed quite well against SKT. They were holding up very admirably in the bot lane. Impact was doing well in the top lane. It was really just the collapse of Jensen kind of in that mid lane, put himself in a bad matchup, wasn't able to perform. So, you know, C9, the rest of the team as a whole, while they did get affected by that pressure that kind of spilled over from mid lane, they were doing well in their individual matchups.
In theory, this should open the door for Meteos as well. A couple of lanes that should have some form of priority in the early game, and maybe that Lee Sin can have a bigger impact than we saw in yesterday's game.
Yeah, there's much more gank assistance on the side of C9, but there's also an Elise on the side of Flash Wolves, so both junglers will have a potential to have good early impact, and there is very little tank in this game. Most people are playing squishy champions, so expect something that can be fairly explosive.
Both coaches, of course, shaking hands on stage and backing away. Remember, C9 and Flash Wolves are both 0-1 in the group, trying to catch up to SKT and IMA. You guys jump on Twitter. Let us know, who do you think is going to pick up a win today? Who's going to go 1-1 at the end of day 3? Tweet those predictions at LOL Esports. Use hashtag FWWin if it'll be the LMS and Flash Wolves, or if you believe in some apple pie in North America, can hashtag C9 win the game. The fans in the audience are on board with the Flash Wolves, it seems. We'll find out as we load up onto the Rift. And kick off Group B, Flash Wolves versus Cloud9.
And this is still just the second game they have played here at Worlds. They didn't get to start until the beginning of day 2.
For what it's worth, that's a fairly split call. I'm hearing some whispers of Flash Wolves.
This is an esports problem, in my opinion, specifically in League. People know how to chant 3-syllable names, but as soon as it's a 2-syllable name, all the rhythm is messed up. C9, 9C, and it's messed up. Gotta learn how to chant the 2-syllable names.
Jatt, why are you trash talking the fans?
I'm trying to give them tips.
I believe San Francisco, I believe in you.
I'm waiting for like a let's go C9.
Oh, there you go, there you go.
That is more rhythmic.
You know what? I'm waiting for a let's go Flash Wolves. We'll see which one cheers a little bit louder. As we see a little bit of a poke in the bottom lane.
The battle begins.
They added a clap. That's good.
We'll move on. I will clarify my point later.
All right, so as the game is going to be starting off, looks like Meteos wants to be topside here with Impact, and I'm going to be closely tracking these junglers' early routes. And interesting to note as well, Jensen going to be playing with Cleanse this time, giving a lot more respect over to that Elise.
Yeah, and of course, Chain of Corruption's added to the equation. Jensen got that Doran's Ring. It's a Biscuits Corrupting Potion for Maple as far as starting items go. We did see a tiny bit of poke in the bottom tri-bush, but it doesn't equate to much. A good mantra Q from Smoothie to start off this laning phase.
The early push in this lane is very important, especially with both junglers starting on the top side, so they're going to be moving towards the Scuttle Crab when it will be spawning. And also because Nami does have the sustained advantage, so if you're C9, you need to be able to get this shove in early so that you can then back up and still have the lane priority.
See how that works out in terms of the early game. Meteos, starting off in the top half of the map, got himself Krugs, got himself red buff.
And Karsa is doing a very quick clear here. Went straight for the double buff, and this does unlock the ability to go for these quick level 3 ganks if he sees any opportunities. And right now, C9 is pushed in heavily in the bot lane, so that could be somewhere he wants to try to target.
Jensen comes off worse for wear in that trade, despite the Clockwork Wind-Up passive from Orianna, which traditionally does fairly well in those auto-attack trades. Eating spells doesn't help your case. Sneaky and Smoothie shoving very hard, using every ability under the sun, and just forcing NL and SwordArt to play fairly defensive at the tower.
And one of the reasons they want to do that is it allows the Karma to hit those Qs so much more easily. You can harass these people under the turret. When you clear out those minions, there's a lot more difficulty in avoiding those skill shots.
Yeah, not much pathing happening towards that bottom side, mainly because C9 was able to get that early ward off in the river. Very curious to see how these lanes end up working, because I'm looking at the matchups and I see C9 has a lot of pushing and winning matchups, which should be very favorable for Meteos.
Certainly should, and Karsa has had a very interesting path here. The quick double buff, then goes back to the race, to the Wolves, and now he's moving up into the top side jungle, so very unlikely that C9 and Meteos would be tracking this guy as to being on this side of the map.
Really blue buff going to Jensen is just going to help him even more. The only issue that could happen here is if Karsa, with this big investment, could get a gank in onto Impact. He's completely snuck behind the ward, so Impact might end up getting aggressive, overcommit in lane, and have Karsa...
This is such smart pathing. There's no way Impact is going to expect this guy to be up here, but he does have that tri-bush ward. We'll see how quickly he's able to react, and Meteos moving up top side as well.
Karsa needs to hug the wall.
Oh, here he comes.
Last time he can be seen.
Flash is available, look for the cocoon, it connects! Impact will go down! First blood for Karsa!
Huge mistake from Impact. He flashed when he saw the harpoon. He needed to wait for the cocoon there to have any chance of surviving, and Karsa, with a brilliant early jungle path, gets first blood for his team.
I have to credit MMD, though, for immediately going for the flash and making the harpoon happen, because if he lands the slow, even after the flash, you can land the cocoon.
All right, now I do have to give you guys a quick update. Yesterday, it took Meteos 16 minutes and 40 seconds to connect a Sonic Wave on an enemy champion. He's broken that record by 12 minutes today. Not that it matters in the engagement.
Clap, 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 clap. That is how it's supposed to be done.
But unfortunately for Meteos, arriving too late to the party, and Impact goes down. Kill goes to Karsa as well.
Yeah, and here it is once again, and so unfortunate, especially because he uses the Lightning Rush aggressively here, and he flashes reactively, but it's just... The only chance he had of getting out was flashing the cocoon, and even then, it probably would have been death because he was so far up and had already used his rush. But so much credit has to be given to Karsa.
Yeah, using the minion wave may have helped Impact as well, but it's specifically because of that wacky path that Karsa decided to go with. It was incredibly hard to predict from Impact's side. And that is one of Impact's greatest strengths that I think Karsa was trying to work around. Impact really understands junglers for the most part and can feel when they're up top. It's a game timing thing. It's just being able to sense what type of path they've been going with. Karsa completely surprised Impact there. He thought he was a completely different place on the map.
And that said, Impact still is carving out a nice CS advantage here. MMD holding on to that teleport, though, will give them some playmaking ability on the bot side, especially if they want to try to go for something like an early dragon.
Yeah, Infernal Drake is the flavor of the first Drake. And we've seen internationally it is the quickest taken dragon throughout the course of summer, and we'll expand to that in a second. Karsa, no flash available. Moving down towards Smoothie and Sneaky. And of course, Smoothie and Sneaky, they sense they went out. They get a ward in the tri-bush as well, so they backed away. Max range cocoon doesn't mean anything. There's no follow-up from NL or SwordArt.
Yeah, for now, it looks like a relatively weak gank, but it looks like they're just trying to shove up so they can get a good base without having to wave freeze in a bad spot.
Yeah, and they also want to get an early base so NL can get his tier stacking, because the longer Caitlyn delays the Ezreal, the better it is for this Caitlyn. The Caitlyn wants the BF sword, wants these big buys, whereas Ezreal wants to base early for that tier. Cloud9
have to be so careful. There is now a ward directly behind their duo, so if MMD wants to jump in there and spit some flames, he's got the option to do so. With the backing from Flash Wolves, Cloud9 start Infernal.
And remember the TP. This is very risky, but the bot lane duo has based, and C9, because of that bot lane advantage, may get this for free.
They completed their backs, and it's a bold play by C9, but I actually think it's a smart one.
Yeah.
As far as TPs being down for Impact for not MMD, because even if MMD does teleport down, since everyone on Flash Wolves was so low, C9 could have just backed away with the Karma, and that would have only increased Impact's advantage in the top lane. So really good job actually using their top lane and bottom lane advantages to take an uncontested Drake.
And it's these little things that compound. The pushing in, the constant poke that they get, the running out of potions here for Flash Wolves in this bot lane means they get that Infernal Dragon. Little differences can mean a lot.
Yeah, an early Dragon. Next one's going to be Infernal as well, no less. And I'll spot it out on a ward. Right, Tear of the Goddess for him, Tear of the Goddess for Maple, and look at the minimap. Smoothie and Meteos making their way up to support Impact.
Yeah, if they could be here, if they can bait in the dive and counter gank this could be huge, but they need to move there right now. Meteos is spending some time.
This is going to get so scary. Sneaky's making his way up as well. This is a potential 4-on-4. You have to feel Flash Wolves know they've not seen anybody in the bottom half of the map for a while.
Yeah, and C9 was fast enough to the play, too risky to actually make that attempted dive into a Kennen with ultimate, even 4v3.
And I think it was just a great ward by Impact in the top lane to place it in the lane right there. Understanding that with the turret changes, one of the common plays was to, on your first backup in an AD carry, especially in a losing matchup, just send your team top lane and try and surprise them to shove down a turret. But the ward was there, C9 was on the game, they knew they had winning lanes, and they kept their winning lanes.
Losing matchup, and now itemization is against NL as well. Cull and Tia versus BF Sword. That is difficult. Tia in the mid lane. Double Doran's Blades for Impact's Kennen. So there's a lot of early strengths that seem unanswerable for the time being on the Flash Wolf side.
And just look at this lane positioning here. Because Flash Wolf made this move, it didn't pay off. Impact gets to collect this huge wave that was slow pushing in, and that's going to put him significantly in the lead in this 1v1 matchup as far as XP goes and as far as the CS.
Even as far as gold goes, he's now at 100 advantage over the Rumble, and I can only expect it to grow, especially if Meteos decides to attend that lane. The early game gank potential of the Kennen with Elise is immense, and I really want C9 to actually go for that play.
Yeah, they certainly could. Meteos is definitely sitting on a lot of gold here. I think he wants to spend that up before getting too aggressive, and will go do so now, but so far, very close affair here. C9 gives up the first kill, but they're in the lead because of these winning lanes and because of those advantages that they are carving out.
Warrior enchant for Meteos. Karsa's gone Runic Echoes, and Impact's going to run into... Oh, Karsa, very good ward though. Lightning rushes away. Staying alive. Very clear where Karsa's focus is. Not only helping out MMD, but trying to keep Impact down, who, at least in many's eyes, are one of reasons that Cloud9 are winning games.
And as much of a meme as it is, the whole MMD reaction video to getting Impact, they were very worried about this matchup, and Impact's performance had a lot of people worried coming into Worlds.
And we're talking up Impact, but Jensen's also got a big advantage on
Certainly.
Maple right now. The two tier of the Goddesses on Flash Wolves right now. Obviously, Ezreal doesn't have to get hurt as much from the tier, but especially the Varus, the early game play has to be there.
Here is the play. Teleport. Sneaky's caught. He gets equalized. Karsa sinks the fangs in. A venomous bites for one. That's 3 kills to the Flash Wolves, and they turn their attention to the tower as well.
Such a quick move there from the Flash Wolves. They get 3, and they should get the first turret of the game here, and really gonna break it wide open.
Yeah, for all the focus that they were putting on Impact, they quickly pivot, and I don't think Cloud9 was expecting that level of the gank, but it was a teleport from the top lane, a ghost from the mid lane, and they essentially take their 2 losing lanes, roam them up top lane, and pick up 3 kills, which then kind of equalizes the lane from gold perspective, and then gives them a large lead in the game.
2,000 gold swing from this play. Take a look at the teleport on your minimap in just a second.
Yeah, and they're pinging onto the ward, and the TP is going to come in.
And Impact had his teleport up, so he could have matched, but the thing is Jensen had also back, so it wouldn't have been that great of a match. With the bubble landing on top of the equalizer, it really wasn't worth it. And I think Meteos was super surprised to see the Varus roam up as well. So really just good map play by Flash Wolves to kill C9 there.
4 kills to 0, 1 tower to 0. All of that 10 minutes laning advantages seem to be completely undone. And Flash Wolves are setting up control. It's 1.5 minutes till the next Infernal Drake. Very early, very powerful Drake. Shockwaves onto Maple. Cleanse and Flash is available. Command attack goes out, and Jensen's forced to back away. Actually gets caught by the Aqua Prison. But a lot of damage onto Maple, and that's part of the reason he's built up a 25 CS advantage.
Yeah, and one of the buffs to Orianna, especially now that he has the Merlin Omicron down, is the cooldown on the ultimate. It's only 82 seconds until that ult's going to be back up again, which is essentially 2.5 waves.
Okay, shift used. Sonic Wave just falls short. Meteos won't be able to find a target. The support there for Flash Wolves in the bottom lane, as the 3-man stack of Cloud9 feel like they're repositioning.
Oh no, Sneaky.
Sneaky's down. That was way too easy. Just wanting to set up a ward. And with 45 seconds to Drake, Flash Wolves pick up their 5th kill of the game.
And it feels a little reminiscent of the previous game where Meteos is just having trouble getting involved whatsoever. Karsa running around the map, seemingly able to pull off these ganks at will.
Yeah, it's the second time C9 have also picked Lee Sin instead of the Elise and have opted into this matchup, but they haven't been able to execute it. And we're only seeing the games that are on stage. There's other teams that also prioritize this Lee Sin, and there are reasons if you're able to execute that the Lee Sin can be better from a playmaking perspective. But you have to be able to make the plays, and right now Meteos just isn't doing that.
And you have to be able to expect that you can make those plays when you have 3 winning lanes. All of Cloud9's lanes won, but the jungle priority has gone heavily towards Karsa. Not only is he ahead as far as gank participation and kill participation, he's actually up in farm too.
One thing that is a shining light for Cloud9, gigantic CS advantages in top and mid lane. So yes, they are falling behind, but there is still farming power, and there is always that combo. Shockwave plus Slicing Maelstrom.
And there's also the late game assistance that they can give Sneaky if he's able to get a little bit of farm up. They're trying to rush this next Infernal Drake, and they do have the teleport advantage if Impact can make it in.
And this would be so key to get that second one, to start stacking it. They really want to get it.
And they get it! That was close. I held my breath because the observers followed the True Shot barrage. 2 Infernals at 13 minutes. Late game investment, that is strong.
Exactly, and while it may not pay off right now because they don't have a ton of AD and AP, the longer this game goes on, that starts to more than make up for this gold discrepancy.
At this point, knowing that they have the double Infernal Drake, I think C9 actually just try and ward up and farm out the lanes a little bit.
Got the minions.
Remember, it's a shorter cooldown. Jatt has told us this.
Yeah.
It is now firing
It's
the
not
farming
that short,
tool.
Trevor. It's not that short.
You know, you can throw those optimistic ones out.
It's not Luxol. You can't just use it on every wave.
Okay, maybe I'm a bit too forgiving then in that regard. But as it stands, Protobelt picked up now for MMD on that Rumble. I love seeing Rumble with Protobelt. Jump forward, flame spitter in the face. Like to see Hourglass next. Big items still to be completed for both Maple and NL. So, you know, Flash Wolves are going to be content to have a slower paced farm game until both of those guys can be a little more impactful with the itemization.
They are, but to Jatt's point, how much do you really want to slow in against the double Infernal, right? Do you really want to go super late game? I think they are going to have to continue to push their advantages, continue to have Karsa making these aggressive plays, simply because C9's carries have been gifted this big advantage.
And I think the Varus Rumble is an incredibly mid-game focused play. It's not necessarily early game. So like C9 has winning lanes, they have better late game, but they have a power trough in the mid-game. So between 20 and 30 minutes, I think, is when they're going to be at their most vulnerable. Maybe even until now, 15 to 30 minutes. And that's why they need to defensively ward, continue to shove out their waves, and just let the double Infernal and their late-game team comp work later in the game.
Karsa stepped over that ward, cleared out the Tribush, teleports up Impact. Meteos sniffing around MMD in the top lane, but MMD backed away, so no opportunities just yet. 3,000 gold down. Flash Wolves have an advantage. Reminder that they were up 4,000 gold against IMA yesterday and still managed to lose that game because of IMA's resilience. So Flash Wolves need to fix their shot calling in a very short space of time to make it work. Oh, Meteos, bit of a Maple, not going to find it. All right, Tower fell, Chain of Corruption misses as it does many times. Flash away from Meteos. MMD used that Proto Belt, he's overheating, and the Equalizer has been used.
And once again, it's, you know, Meteos goes topside, he can't even find the counter jungle. MMD simply backs off. Meanwhile, Karsa forces the C9 bot lane off the turret, gets that turret, and then Meteos has to blow his flash and retreat. So Karsa is just being so effective compared to Meteos in this game so far.
All it took was the ghost of Maple to just kind of easily walk away.
No.
Jensen's got a good shockwave, but he's out of mana now, needs to back away. Sneaky gets chunked down heavily by Karsa, and Meteos is in place. Can only safeguard in and clear the wave out, but slightly awkward trades on 2 sides of the river.
Yeah, and C9 only has the mid lane turret up now, so as far as stalling out the game, this is a very dangerous time because they need to kind of protect their jungle from being invaded, because if the vision gets set up there by Flash Wolves, it becomes easier for them to deny all of C9's vision and start diving the interior turrets as well as the outer mid lane turret.
First items picked up for Maple in NL now. The Frozen Fist, the Ghost Blade, Aegis completed for Karsa, Haunting Guys for MMD. So they're starting to come into their own, and this gold lead going to be a lot more powerful in the mid game. Dragon's up in what, about 3-ish minutes? And it looks like Cloud9 have had very high Dragon priority, probably because it is that Infernal, of course. Chain of Corruption catches Jensen, cleanse, allows him to sidestep the bubble. Golf claps all around for that.
Yeah. Good cleanse, nice side step right afterwards. Hardly takes any damage and can actually stay in lane right now and continue to try and shove out. And C9 have one defensive pink ward in their jungle. I think that's good. I'd love to see them get the second one in a basically near their red buff on the other side. And they're going to have to continue to refresh them because Flash was going to continually try and go in.
Now, this is the second time we've seen Flash Wolves have a pretty impressive early game.
Meteos getting got.
Oh, he's in trouble. Dragon's Rage is away. Ward hops out. And MMD decides not to chase. But yeah, another sizable advantage. They did the same thing yesterday against iMate. Same thing today against Cloud9, despite what actually looked like a very horrible start to the game for Flash Wolves in terms of the lane matchups.
Yeah, it's been very impressive the way they've been able to play the map. This is an even bigger lead than they had. It's actually exactly the same, 4,100 gold. 4,100 gold if that sticks through to 20 minutes that they had against iMate.
Oh,
but Impact, can he make a play?
It's Impact, Proto bounce forward. There's Impact with a solo kill.
Top die, Impact's gonna get a solo kill for C9, and the playmaker throughout all the playoffs gives them something to be happy about in this game.
Yeah, that is desperately needed for C9, and they need to be able to also clear out this mid wave.
Can't do that with a tidal wave. That's going to zone C9 out. Shockwave is available if anybody steps forward. Meteos forced to back away. And the Inner is killed for the most part. And Flash Wolves get the tower down to about 20% HP.
It's really tricky for them to also try and keep everyone farmed up while keeping these turrets live, but they're holding out decently well right now, actually, after being down 5-0, especially after the solo kill. Caitlyn trying to set up traps to hold this one, but what's nice is Impact is getting a turret on the top side.
Yeah, still, I give the edge in that turret trade to Flash Wolves, as that mid lane turret really does unlock even more of the jungle for them, where they have been doing a great job aggressively pushing vision, controlling that, and trying to take these camps away from Meteos.
And camp stolen away from Cloud9. Maple gets his hands on C9's blue buff. The Cloud Drake has spawned, and despite the numbers advantage for Flash Wolves, they don't have the greatest vision control. Here's a replay of that solo kill.
Yeah, MMD just trying to check into the brush. They had the pink ward in the river, completely close it out. And he'd also already used a bunch of his cooldowns earlier. He used an ult to clear the wave.
I also love the fact that Impact knew he had enough damage without blowing his flash, so he gets that kill. And C9, again, Flash Wolves kind of caught sleeping here. Ooh, that was close, but still, third straight Dragon with Flash Wolves in this advantageous position. Feels like something that should not be happening.
I completely agree. I think Flash Wolves' objective control has not been where it needs to be. And they were a slow-paced region when they were playing in the LMS and had better objective control. But for the first two games here on the world stage, they're losing the objective control. And this 3,000 to 4,000 gold lead will not mean much if they continually give away Drakes, especially with the next one being a third Infernal.
And a lot of it to me is their vision control is good, but their back timings have been very poor, and C9 has been aware of those back timings and always able to capitalize on them.
Can Cloud9 do it again? There's still time for 2 more Drakes. We know one is Infernal. Still another one to spawn after that before Elder. And Cloud9, their team comp will scale. Secure the blue buff. I think that was taken. No, did...
I think
wow,
MMD
the Harpoon did it.
Yeah, MMD stole it.
The Electro Harpoon took it. So... no blue buff for C9. Remember, they had theirs stolen a few minutes ago.
Perhaps the least effective champion to steal blue buff on.
Got the CDR.
But it still denies the blue buff and gives him the experience, which is very important.
28-1 with a lead at 20.
Yeah,
that
the one loss coming yesterday.
Yes, that's the most important thing, how recent that loss is. And it just adds that element of doubt, doesn't it? When you look at the team composition from Cloud9, when you look at the Dragons, when you look at the CS discrepancy, what's that, plus 57 for Impact. He's halfway to a Flame Horizon.
And I love this because he's on a champion that I think is going to continue to have the advantage in this 1v1 in the side lane. So that is something that's going to be working heavily towards them.
Yeah, and even the mid lane has been pretty good for Jensen. The reason that Maple has been able to catch up a bit in CS is because Flash Wolves have been sending their whole team at him to try and get that mid lane turret, which they eventually took.
Okay, so how do Flash Wolves then take advantage of this gold lead and the spike that their team comp currently has with the poke and with the long-range abilities over the next few minutes?
To me, it's a lot about just continuing to extend their vision, push up vision, siege objectives, and get control around it. They can also look for picks, with things like the Chains of Corruption and that Elise. So really controlling vision around the Baron, I think, is step one, and then looking either for picks or to threaten starting them up.
And I think the biggest problem for them right now is how much power Impact has in the side lane. They can't necessarily get their waves pushing at the right time, and they don't have anyone on their team right now that can be near him. If anyone is near Impact, Impact is going to get a kill. So they either need to send 2 people down and kill Impact, then set up a siege, or just find a window in which they can group 5 people and hard push a turret.
Especially the experience advantage in addition to the gold. If it was just the CS that MMD was behind, it would not be as bad. But I mean, Impact is a good level and a half ahead, and is going to be very, very frightening as he closes in on level 16. You can see MMD doesn't even want to come close. He's just going to have to drop the equalizer to clear the wave.
And this is the other thing. That's another equalizer used on the wave, which diminishes their teamfight threat and makes it so they can't make powerful plays on the map, and that only extends the game, which C9 is fine with.
They certainly are, and we can see MMD roaming back up towards mid lane. C9 spotted him out, but don't have to be too scared with that equalizer down.
Cloud9 going to be sitting fairly comfortably, knowing the equalizer's down, knowing they've got this dragon investment. It obviously becomes much more valuable.
Oh, good catch!
Gets caught out, and he will go down. NL snipes.
Such nice coordination. Cocoon into the bubble. The Ezreal ulti already coming in.
Azael, 3 minutes ago, I said, how does Flash Wolves extend their lead? You said vision, into picks, into a tower. They pulled it off flawlessly.
3 minutes ago, they didn't even have the vision, but now C9 is trying to fight back.
All right, Flash into Maple. He's got caught out. Shockwave still not used. Jensen's looking for a target. Not going to find it yet. That's a good piercing arrow from Maple. Chunks down Impact. Impact's looking for a target. Looking to pull a Smeb. Looking for a 5-man slicing Maelstrom. But Flash Wolves are not presenting a target.
And C9 don't actually want to go hard on a 4v5. They know that Sneaky was already down in that fight, and they really are just trying to play around this third Infernal Drake, I think.
I mean, that was great play by Flash Wolves. They pushed the vision in. They found the kill by Sneaky, and they got a tower. It's a 5,000 gold leads.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, when Azael mentioned the vision control 3 minutes ago, Flash Wolves didn't actually have it. They attained the vision control and then went to get the kill, and they catch Sneaky in transition.
It's also becoming very problematic for C9 because Sneaky is supposed to be this physical damage source, and he's just following further and further behind. He's the one consistently getting picked off, and NL is getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
And this is also a C9 tendency from the regular season. We have to remember, as far as all the teams attending Worlds, almost unanimously, the AD carry would have a larger share of the 15 to 30 minute CS. But C9 was the team where that was not true. The mid-game farm almost always goes to Jensen, and it's been Sneaky who's trying to go side to side to be able to get it. Because if they are grouped in the same place, it's Jensen who is clearing the wave and not Sneaky. And that really makes you question the way C9 is going to be trying to play this late game. Are they going to say Jensen needs 6 items so he can land a 6-man shockwave, or Sneaky needs 6 items so he can stack shields on him and he can carry? Because right now, they're trending towards Jensen rather than Sneaky.
Yeah, they certainly are trending towards both Impact and Jensen, but a lot of MR is being built up as a result. You know, we have some key big-ticket items already finished for that, and more MR is being built.
25 minutes talking about that MR. Randian's Omens for some armor on the side of Meteos. Hourglass being worked towards for Impact, and MMD got his hands on that Negatron cloak. We'll see where it decides to go. And the next Dragon up in 10 seconds. Meteos just gets away with his life.
And this is the huge thing, the third Infernal Drake. If Flash Wolves gets one, then it's only an 8% advantage that C9 will have in damage. But if they get this one, it's 24% extra attack damage and ability power.
Yeah, this fight right here could be enough to decide the game, to give C9 that snowball advantage. They're going to go straight into it. Jensen gets caught!
He does get caught, but he stays alive for the time being. Teleports into the mid lane for MMD. The tidal wave sends Cloud9 packing. Meteos runs for his life. 2,500. Meteos, he might chance this one. Sonic Wave and Smite are available. Baron doesn't reset just yet.
Flash Wolves should be patient right now. They're going.
They don't get it. Meteos goes down. He had to try. Flash Wolves get Dragon number 1.
And a kill. That's so huge. They could have been patient and made it so Meteos had no chance of the steal, but they decided to continue damage on it. Karsa has been on point. He gets the smite instead of Meteos, and now they have Meteos down for the push.
All right, Impact's looking for an engage. Remember, this is 4 on 5. If he looks
Here
for
he
it,
goes.
Maelstrom manages to get 3. Drive the shockwave. Impact bounces backwards. They've only got 1, but they save the tower. It feels like that needed to be more.
It really does, and you know, with that Dragon advantage kind of neutralized here, you know, it could have been 24% advantage. Now it's only that 8. It's not that big of a deal for Flash Wolves. They have a lot more confidence with that going forward, and C9 expending a lot of their playmaking abilities here were not able to get enough.
Yeah, but you did see a preview of how they want to fight.
Certainly.
Impact with the flank, and then Jensen comboing up on the already stunned targets. So even if the Goldie gets pretty big, that type of fight is already a possibility.
And here is Impact, flies on in, not able to catch really the big tickets that they wanted, you know, that Maple, that NL, but still, they are able to take down MMD. They're able to force some summoners out, and we'll see how quickly they can look to repeat that, as Impact can be very aggressive with his now completed Zhonya's.
Yeah, it was through an exhaust as well, but the worry I actually have for C9 here is also if NL is going to be ignored or not. Yeah. NL has not been seen as a strong AD carry, but even in their game yesterday, which they lost to Aime, he was the primary damage dealer on Lucian, had a pretty good game. Here, he's been laning quite well against Sneaky and Smoothie. He's picked up more kills than anyone else on Flash Wolves. He's at the important items as far as the blue build Ezreal goes, and he is doing a bunch of damage. So if they can't actually close on to NL in fights, NL would be able to clean them up.
I will say I'm a little bit surprised that he doesn't actually just go for a more defensive build, though, with his next item. Picking up the Last Whisper, to me, is not super needed at this point.
I agree.
And grabbing something like a QSS would keep him massively more safe against the AP-heavy burst.
Especially with no Meteos on SwordArt yet, I think the QSS is the almost obvious choice. The only person he's cutting through with that Last Whisper is Meteos, who has been mostly a non-factor in a lot of these fights. He needed the QSS, in my opinion, as yours as well.
We'll see if it matters. There we go. QSS would have helped a whole lot there. Manages to flash heal his way out just a moment later. Decent equalizer. Very good chain of corruptions. This time it catches Meteos. No kill secured yet. MMD's looking for more. Got that proto belt available if he can find a target.
And now it's about Flash Wolves going back towards the Baron. They know that C9 is low, and they're going to try to make a move for now. Let's see if they start it up.
There are some C9 wards in the blue buff area of the Flash Wolves jungles, if Impact wants to.
C9 did not burn any high cooldown ultimates in that scenario, but they're expecting Flash Wolves to be on this right now. They don't have blue trinkets, so Smoothie's going to check. Nice juke, but the Baron could still be being taken for all they know.
Yeah, but they now see them moving out, and Kennen is pushing the bot lane the whole time. Sneaky's pushing mid. C9 will get one turret, maybe two, and they pull it off without losing anyone. That is huge for C9.
C9 called Flash Wolves bluff right there. There was not any sneaky wards that showed them that they weren't there. It was a total guess, but it pays off huge.
Manages to keep C9 in the game. We're cresting the 30-minute mark, and it's a 3,000 gold difference, which really doesn't mean a lot. The next dragon will be up in about 2.5, 3 minutes time. It will be a mountain, and that will once again be another contested objective. We saw how much Flash Wolves fought for it.
One thing Flash Wolves did get out of that, though, is both of Sneaky's summoners, and he is going to be very vulnerable with a lot of flashes available here on Flash Wolves' team, right? They have the flash on MMD, on Karsa, on Maple. If they can catch him with any sort of CC and pile onto him, Sneaky's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Well, that's definitely the target for Flash Wolves. If they can stay away from Impact, he's going to have his flash up in about 1.5 minutes time, roughly. Got that hourglass completed now as well, slightly ahead of MMD, thanks to the very good CS, still plus 60. Jensen still plus 50. And Sneaky sitting about on par with NL, but he still needs another item or so, really, before he becomes a super terrifying Caitlyn.
Exactly. Based on the control that Flash Wolves has exhibited inside C9's jungle, you would expect a much more snowballed game than we have here. But in fact, C9 have 3 of the elemental drakes. They still do have an advantage, and I still think they have a late game advantage in this game if they can just withstand a little bit more of this Flash Wolves team.
QSS on Sneaky's going to help that out. MMD going to secure this blue buff for Maple. A little bit of contest from Impact, but nothing really serious.
That said, the gold lead has been closing a little bit over these past few minutes. It's only actually, about 3,000 gold lead. It was almost at 5,000 some minutes ago for Flash Wolves, so they do have to be a little bit careful about that.
Okay, the dance at the minute around Baron. C9 trying to get some vision control in the pit. A minute to Dragon, and look at the vision that Flash Wolves have pushed into Cloud9's jungle. They're going to have some control around the area. Jensen's going to go into this next team fight with the Rylai's and a Void Staff to complement his Morellonomicon.
And Impact is waiting in base for a teleport. They were hoping that they would fall back.
Here it comes,
Look
here
how
it
far
comes.
back this teleport is coming in from.
Meteos on the
trying
side.
to force.
Meteos doesn't find anyone with a Sonic
corralling him
Wave.
into Impact.
Impact's looking for more. There's a flash available. Flash Wolves fall back. Remember the vision they set up from earlier. This is making it slightly safer. And Flash Wolves, all of a sudden, they've got pressure on the inner turret.
They have an inside track on the turret, but they do not have a way back to their base after doing this. The more Varus Qs they can land, the more or they can dissuade C9 from engaging.
Impact is still coming in from the backside. C9 wants this fight. Will they make the move?
Tidal wave onto Impact. Impact gets caught out. He puts a very early Maelstrom. That does nothing. Chain of Corruption cuts off the rest of Cloud9, and Flash Wolf survives.
SwordArt with a beautiful bubble, completely denying Impact's engage there. And they completely outplay C9 with that move. They navigate around, they get the turret, they get the dragon, and they lose nothing. So well managed by Flash Wolves.
Definitely playing a high-pressure game, but they executed it just right. They saw that C9 had a very telegraphed engage. The ward wasn't exactly close for C9 to close in on, and it didn't actually corner them anywhere. And then they used the walls very expertly. Maple consistently landed the piercing arrows through and through, and the tidal wave was the big kicker from SwordArt to completely seal the disengage.
That's scary for me. Flash Wolves looking controlled in that play. It was controlled late game plays that did not allow them to win against IMA yesterday, and Sneaky and Smoothie, the help of Meteos, they've gone very extended. No teleport for Impact either.
That's the biggest thing. Impact is off pushing the side wave after team just picked up Mountain Drake, and Meteos is caught.
Oh, Meteos is caught. He manages to flash away. Chain of Corruption doesn't find anybody, in Karsa goes forward to the repel. MMD equalizer's not up yet. Proto belts forward. Instantly goes golden with the Hourglass. Impact is looking to run up through the river, but so lucky for Cloud9. No equalizer available.
That was such a risky kick there from Meteos. He kicked him right on top of his team, and that could have been devastating if he had the equalizer and the Proto belt up. They would have gotten erased.
Well, I believe it was the Proto belt that made Meteos kick him in, because he Proto belted forward as the kick was about to channel.
Well, C9 Impact. Held my breath there. Thought he was going for the Maelstrom play. Did not in the end. Hourglass on cooldown. Baron is up and available. Vision heavily in favor of Flash Wolves in the river. Look at those CS differences. Smoothie gets caught by CC, but there's no damage to follow it up.
Yeah, and this is, even though the kills are a little bit lower, eerily similar to the IMA versus Flash Wolves game we saw yesterday. Flash Wolves look like they should be able to get these plays done, but they don't necessarily have a good split push advantage, and they don't have enough hard engage to start anything, so they're trying to get the picks with Elise in order to get a big enough advantage.
Meteos.
Oh, manages to step back just at the right second. Teleport is not up for Impact again. Remember, MMD's got his available.
So also one of those games where we're getting to the stage where Flash Wolves, they're struggling to find a way to end this game, and Impact may go for a solo kill.
They're gonna look for it. This should just be easy peasy. Slicing Maelstrom, the flash, not used, but getting the flash out of MMD, still a successful play.
It is, but you also have to remember MMD still has his ultimate, so there's an opportunity for a power play here. In the long term, because the cooldowns are desynced, oftentimes the ultimate for Flash is worth it. But if you fight before the other guy's ult is back, there's an ultimate advantage on top laners right now, and Flash Wolves can use that to gain map pressure.
They certainly can, and look at the amount of vision they have established around this Baron pit. C9 is hanging around, but it's difficult for them to find a way in.
I am shocked that C9 are consistently split pushing with their teleportless Kennen, and Flash Wolves aren't punishing, especially with the ultimate down. MMD teleport up and just go as far as Flash Wolves are concerned, but they are not doing that.
The world's pressure, 35 minutes of gameplay, losses under their belts. Definitely feels like it is impacting their decision-making, playing it slower and safer.
It certainly does, and if you give C9 enough chances, they only need to find one big in. If Impact can get that combo with Jensen onto the back line, that could spell disaster for Flash Wolves, and we'll see if they're going to be able to get anything done. Flash Wolves feeling more and more hesitant.
Same could be said for Flash Wolves. One Baron opportunity.
Certainly.
They've got a more substantial lead. They've taken double the number of towers. Cocoon onto Meteos. NL's coming to follow up. Dragon's Rage, another ultimate not available. Slightly less impactful than Impact's, because Impact will have his teleport and Slicing Maelstrom in around 20 to 30 seconds, if I read that cooldown correctly.
You can also feel the pressure that C9 is under to not really consistently base. They're staying out on the map because they're always worried about the Baron. You know, Sneaky sitting around with a lot of gold. Jensen has been sitting around with quite a bit of gold himself too. And you know, it's something where they don't always have the ideal back times because they're feeling the pressure to be out on the map and be able to respond to a Baron.
Yeah, the objectives are very real as a threat. LB Drake will be up in 2 minutes as well. That can be another thing that moves the game forward towards completion. But the fact of the matter is their inhibitors are completely safe on Cloud9's side. They're yet to be assaulted, and unless Flash Wolves is willing to actually commit to doing a Baron, C9 doesn't have that much to worry about. I wonder if the earlier play in the game where Flash Wolves were trying to bait Baron and C9 just took turrets, is still in the heads of Flash Wolves because they've had plenty of opportunities, I feel like, to at least start the Baron. They have sustain even with the Nami.
They've got some more defensive abilities as well. MMD went for the Banshee's Veil, whereas Impact went for the Void Staff. Definitely signals a difference in style.
Certainly does, and I think with that Void Staff, he could go for MMD, who is flashless.
Protobelt for Protobelt, slicing Maelstrom comes out, Impact's looking for more, still 1,000 HP to work through, Impact moves forward, the Equalizer comes
He's
out,
got it.
Hourglass used, but look at the support, Impact looks for more, that's a giant shield from the overheat, now Impact's in trouble, doesn't get the kill, through the exhaust, in a 1-on-3, takes him down, Meteos is looking for more, Karsa could deliver the shockwave, Karsa's caught out, Smoothie and Sneaky looking for more, the repel, the flash, the sonic wave, this time it hits, this time it kills. Cloud9 makes San Francisco go wild as NL's looking for more. It's in a 4-on-1. Meteos is in trouble. Piercing arrow and bubble. That's a little bit of trouble. Maple's running away with his life, and Sneaky manages to arrive just in time. 2 for 1 at the end of the day.
It all starts from Impact's play on the other side of the map, where he not only forces the Zonias and the alternate of MND, but he also gets the kill while absorbing the roam for anyone else. And then, like shot from a cannon, Meteos suddenly starts landing all his Qs.
Not to mention that, he gets 3 summoners. Ghost was blown to run down here. Both support summoners were used to try to save MMD. He gets the kill anyway. This guy has been incredible for Cloud9. And look at him flashing in, using the exhaust. That's 2 summoners blown. That's the ultimate down. He gets the kill anyway.
The last auto attack after the exhaust had been out. And then here, the engage was very good from Meteos, getting the Q, kicking him backwards, and then landing another one to finish the kill.
And as a result of all this, Flash Wolves has lost their Baron vision control, and it's C9 now getting that aggressive stance, and it's Sneaky at 3 items on the Caitlyn. Critical break point for him. He is going to be getting to a much stronger point. They're going to start it up. This is very risky.
Teleport is available for Impact, so is the Maelstrom. Got all of his items as well. Baron peeled away from. Decent poke. The Piltover Peacemaker of Sneaky, and those traps being cleared out one by one. Impact continues to push.
Right, and this is actually how you should be playing with your teleport in this situation, because they have the teleport advantage. They know MMD is here, so you fall back, and you hope to not get picked off until Impact can get his push, because that will force MMD to go back to base, and then if that happens, Impact could teleport in. So it's all about trading advantages and playing the slow macro game, but they have to be careful not to get caught.
Oh, tidal wave into Equalizer. Jensen and Sneaky, they're cut off. I saw Flash Wolves pings on the middle inhibitor, and Flash Wolves are looking to peel back. Impact has not moved from the bottom lane.
Impact's still pushing, but Flash Wolves have the inside track on this inhibitor turret. Some of their key ultimates are down, but C9 needs to get back and defend the base.
They're trying to. C9 have made it in through the gates up top. Meteos is looking for a flank. Meteos is in the lane. The base is opened up. Meteos Dragon's Rage is available, but no flashes.
There is a game that C9 is playing right now, because Impact is still pushing. They have been on the game to just let Impact go. And I think he gets it. I think this is a straight up trade.
Does Impact need to teleport to get out? That's the question. Look at the minimap. He's going to try Lightning Rush away. No flash available, but I think he's done it.
And C9, if they see more people coming down here, can reestablish their Baron vision control. They're playing a very dangerous game here, but so far they are pulling it off. And look at Impact. He's hanging around for now, but does decide to base.
Game of chicken. Gold leads do not matter at 40 minutes with exposed inhibitors. Flash Wolves have technically been in control the whole game, but they've not been able to press that advantage for what feels like, well, what feels like for 20 minutes.
Exactly,
yeah.
And even with the defensive build out of MMD, it was very clear that he couldn't deal with Impact. He got solo killed, and that's what started this whole jump around the map that we've been seeing. Now it's an exposed inhibitor,
Oh, no.
So Impact is not going to leave this unless he gets baited into something.
MMD has no idea that he's here.
Use his cooldowns, he's very close to overheating.
Do it. Cue the Jaws music. Cue, oh.
All right, Impact being very patient.
Wait for the sequel, wait for the sequel, it'll happen again.
And Impact doesn't reveal here. So he's being incredibly patient. He's hoping that Rumble comes around for another round of shove, and if he walks away too far, he sees him with the board, he's going to go back to shoving. This is where the Baron needs to be committed to. Mountain Drake actually kills it quickly.
C9 sees that it is happening.
Jensen's not close.
Jensen's nowhere near. This is going to be a 3v5.
TB's coming
Teleport
in.
is being channeled, but it's slightly far away. Baron's going to get secured before Cloud9 can get in. Meteos will get his
around.
GA popped. He's in trouble with Meteos in the pit. C9 need to try save him. Meteos is down. 5v4 and Cloud9. They back away.
After all that patience, Jensen moves over. I have to think to get the blue buff, but They see him going over there, and geez.
Yeah, Jensen was actually autoing a pink ward as Flash Wolves was starting Baron, so he was caught by the pink ward, so to speak, and that is pretty unfortunate for C9, and that means Meteos is dead. It's a Baroned up push with an exposed inhibitor. C9 still have the Wombo combo intact if they wanted to go for it, but this seems like a dead inhibitor.
Yeah, and it's Impact going back to the bot lane. I don't know that C9 can really defend this whatsoever. I think this inhibitor is for sure gone. Flash Wolves so quick to pounce on C9's mistakes, and they have been really on point with that, at least.
There's no teleport for Impact, so he's forced away in the bottom lane. MMD is going to shove that wave up. Elder Dragon being pinged a million times by the Flash Wolves. They don't get the inhibitor on this push, but they will fall back, take another key objective, especially when you consider two fires and a Cloud Drake on the side of C9.
And this is exactly the combination of buffs you want if you're Flash Wolves. You have Baron and you have the 2-minute Elder Drake buff. So even if you want to recall, you can because they're empowered and you can run straight back up. But with this 2-minute buff, they should be immediately grouping and going somewhere to set up their poke competition because for once, Impact doesn't have a side wave pushing.
Yeah, and he's trying to get that side wave pushing, but he doesn't have his TP, and they even saw Meteos down on the bot side, so Flash Wolves can just make a mad dash towards the base. They need to get back and get in position to defend this, because their turrets are going to go down so quickly.
Trying to do the best they can. Those Caitlyn cupcake snap traps are in place that at least dissuade some of the pressure. The rest of Flash Wolves are down the bottom lane.
Still a minute and 30 seconds of Elder Drake. With this many elementals, it's 135 true damage burn on every application of damage.
That is ridiculous, and I don't think Cloud9 can deal with it. They're 7,000 gold down in every single major objective. Inhibitors being chipped away. NL's got 1, got 2, got 3 autos. Moving in for a couple more, and inch by inch it's going down. Sneaky's done.
Sneaky.
Look at that, piercing arrow. True shot barrage almost kills him. But manages to get the shield. Inhibitor secured cleanly by Flash Wolves.
That Elder Dragon on Maple is just doing such ridiculous damage. 1 Q did almost all of Sneaky's life, and it's going to be hard for C9 to even hold on to this next inhibitor turret. We'll see if they make the call to go for an engage.
Yeah, they would have to kill them quickly because there's still 45 seconds left on the Elder Drake. The argument could be made to completely give up 2 inhibitors because then the buff would be gone. But C9 has shown the ability to pull the trigger on these fights. Impact does have Flash and Proto Belt available.
There's only about 20 seconds left on this buff, but Meteos hanging around the backside. Impact poised, looking for a possible engage.
Flash Wolves not playing it risky. They know the buff's going to time and back away. Content with supers in one lane. Cloud9 live to fight another day.
The question becomes for Flash Wolves, though, was it enough? If you can't end the game with Elder and Baron, your gold lead stops really mattering at all at this point. Next time those objectives are going to come up, C9 is going to be full builds across the board.
Exactly. When you're playing this incredibly slow game like Flash Wolves is right here, and you're at 45 minutes before you get the right combination of buffs, you have to make that count. Sneaky has been a little bit behind for a lot of the game, gotten a lot more CS lately with super minions pouring into the base, and I think C9 can actually be very happy with the end result of what just happened there, because they will be hitting 6 items shortly, as long as they can keep everyone on their team alive.
Maple's looking for Meteos. It's Flash versus Ghost, so Maple going to lose at least one of those summoners. Remember, Meteos G8 not available for this next fight. Baron will be up in a couple minutes' time, and as it stands, C9 still playing from behind, still looking for that opportunity. Luckily for C9, Flash Wolves' passivity in terms of how hard they press is allowing C9 more and more opportunities.
Exactly. If you look at the items and the right next to the champions, and you don't think about the way the game has been being played, you give a large advantage to C9 right now. They have nearly full builds on both of their huge carries, and they also have a Caitlyn nearing 6 items. Those are just better things to have on your team at this stage of the game. So if C9 can withstand this inhibitor being down and get some map pressure back, they can very well win this game.
Yeah, they still have to be very careful, though. This game is on a knife's edge at this time, and Impact looking for a flank around the top side.
Couple of splits, actually. If you look at the mini-map, Flash Wolves don't have the full contingent up in the top lane. As Maple and NL are down bottom, Tidal Wave comes out, Flash away from Impact. That's very important, and the Proto Belt.
That's so much of the engage potential completely gone for Impact now. It's going to be very tough for him to get in without that available, and Flash Wolves are going to be pressing here in the bot lane.
You can have all the advantages in the world in the late game if you're Cloud9, but without the tools to make them work, without avoiding the poke like that piercing arrow, it's not going to happen. Maple is doing so much damage. True Shot Barrage pushes the wave out. Supers still moving down the mid lane. That inhibitor's got about a minute and a bit before it respawns. And the rest of Flash Wolves trying to pressure the bottom lane with all of that vision.
There is one ward that is being pinged behind the Flash Wolves, though. Impact does have TP. It's possible to look for that.
Still really difficult to push against C9. Sneaky does have a Mercurial Scimitar, so he gets hit by a Varus Q, but heals up fairly well. Flash Wolves is trying to posture to get them off of that turret, but they're not seeming to make very much ground.
Sneaky just bought, so he's full build now. Completed that 6-item Caitlyn. One more item needs to come in for Jensen, and then Cloud9 is essentially done across the board.
Now, everyone here in San Francisco is silenced because this game will be decided by one skill shot or mistake, and all of a sudden, game is over. Impact still got a ward to teleport to if Flash Wolves decide to peel back. However, there's a 3-man stack in the top lane. Jensen moving in to try wave clear. This tower should go down. Karsa clears it out. Good cocoon onto Jensen. Impact, no flash available. Has Protopelt, decides against it, and the ward is timed out down bottom, so that opportunity to get behind is gone.
The Chains of Corruption just missed there from Maple. He tried to go for Meteos, so that is gone, but Flash Wolves is playing this very well, bouncing C9 back and forth, and C9 is having trouble actually answering on both sides. They need to commit to a fight, or they're just going to lose this inhibitor.
And this is even without the Baron buff, so it's actually a really good bounce back and forth, and with no flash on Impact, it's really hard for them to get the right type of engage.
Important. Tidal wave is blown, and Flash Wolves instantly back away. Unfortunately, the ward down bottom timed, as I mentioned, so if you look at Maple and NL, there's no threat of jumping on them. Baron is up in 5 seconds. Elder Dragon's going to be up a couple minutes after that. Meteos.
He goes in.
He follows it. SwordArt's the target. He's going to find an Aqua Prison. A lot of damage on the SwordArt. The rest of Cloud9, they've been tagged. Equalizer gets thrown down only onto Smoothie. Meteos ward hops away to safety, but a lot of ultimates blown.
Yeah, very good for Cloud9 there. They didn't expend almost anything, and that's Rumble ultimate down. A lot of key ultimates down for Flash Wolves.
And now the question is, does C9 just do Baron? Because they have all of their inhibitors up, and all of the key ultimates are actually down for the Flash Wolves, so at the very least, they can push up and get control of these waves again.
I think they just are going to go for this tier 2 mid turret. Looks like they're pushing forward to Siege. All of Cloud9 is here. They know key ultimates are down. Can they capitalize? It looks like they'll at least get the one turret.
Easily secure the tower. How brave are they feeling? Those cooldown timers coming back up. Tidal wave shortly for SwordArt. Equalizer about a third of the way left for MMD. In Cloud9 with a window of opportunity if they can take it.
They're moving over towards that Baron, establishing the vision control.
Yeah, the ultimates will be back very soon for Flash.
Oh, they're looking.
So.
Minion wave from the bottom lane in favor of Cloud9. Looks like MMD's going to catch that. He's got to teleport up as well, but if Cloud9 can go quick, if they can get in there before the 4.5-second channel time.
Meteos is behind. They're looking for the flank onto Maple.
Sonic Wave needs to connect onto a target. That's a giant spider in front of Maple, though. Sonic Wave goes between the goals. This isn't soccer, and Meteos is forced to back away.
Oh my goodness. Just keeps going, QuickShot. They're hitting max items very soon here. Jensen is sitting on nearly 3,000 gold. Will be able to complete his item as soon as he goes back to base.
Oh, Meteos gets caught. There's a little bit of damage to follow up. Jatt, yesterday, Flash Wolves set the longest game of Worlds at 47 minutes. They broke that record today. In Cloud9, Shockwave has been used by Jensen, didn't find a target or a kill. MMD, though, got chunked out. I assume it hit him.
Yeah, it was that shockwave onto MMD, and Jensen just based. I'm not sure if Flash Wolves are aware, but he has now completed all his items and will be getting back out there. No one's starting it up. Looks like Cloud9 is going to be okay for now, and this game is just so ridiculously tense. Flash Wolves and C9, next fight, very likely to decide this game, and no one wants to be the player to make the mistake that ends the game.
And it's so much about the setup to these things and getting the right amount of vision control. They don't want it to be a Baron throw, but they have to find a way to get something going. At this point, 6-item red buff Caitlyn with the support of an Orianna that is also 6 items is a formidable team fighting foe, and that means for Flash Wolves they have to be even more creative about the way they try and find things. C9 has been able to just farm up 500, near 500 CS on all of their carries and reach this point.
They have, but at the same time, they have struggled to find their way into the fights. They have not been able to get the engages. Flash Wolves is the team still in the lead. They're the team with 2 open inhibitors for their opponents.
All right, looking at the setup, both teams pivoting around mid lane. There's no tower to fall back to. Impact has flash available if he needs to. He's been jumped on, decides to back away, uses Protobell to safety. Bubble and Tidal Wave, they go awash, find no targets, but Flash Wolves are going to have time on the inhib.
They have the inside track, and is C9 going to commit to this? Meteos is on the backside looking.
Oh, so scary. Chain of Corruption on Meteos. Meteos has got a GA. He flashes away to safety, stays alive for a few seconds.
So many cooldowns are being burned here. Meteos' flash, Maple's Chain of Corruption, SwordArt's ultimate. Impact was able to escape with his Protobell. As you say, the tension is building, and we're seeing examples of why neither team can necessarily engage in the right way on their opponents.
We've crossed the line of comfort for really any team because this is unusual. NL and Karsa, they're going to get sight on Meteos. His GA not going to get popped. Dragon's Rage is going to knock away the damage dealers of Flash Wolves, but that's a key ultimate. Not available. Baron hasn't been started yet, but it gets tagged. Maple and Karsa are going to back away, in fact. Just the repel into the pits.
Meteos also needs to kind of heal up a little bit here. He's very low on health. If a fight were to break out, it's not the situation that Cloud9 wants. And look at that poke onto Sneaky.
And there's no immediate minions to lifesteal up off of, which is key for Sneaky right now, and it's what's giving Flash Wolves the confidence, because they land one more poke on Sneaky. He's near dead. Baron's getting incredibly low.
Coming around.
This is going to try. Shockwave does nothing. Karsa gets caught out. Meteos lands a Sonic Wave. But simply put, Cloud9 fumble the ball. Flash Wolves get Baron.
I actually can't believe that Cloud9 just let them get away with that. They were in position to fight. Impact has his ultimate. Jensen has his ultimate. That's exactly where you want them. Corralled into the Baron pit, and Cloud9 just seem paralyzed. They're not willing to make the call to go, and now it's Flash Wolves with the Baron buff. Can be pushing in on all sides.
C9 are really trying to have everyone at high health before they go into fights, and they consistently get
Smoothie!
Smoothie's down. That's damaging. Impact's looking for more. Hourglass and Protobelt are up. Inhibitor falls. Super's going to pour through slowly but surely. There's no shockwave for Jensen either. Flash Wolves have finally found the front footing they've wanted for the entire game and take down 2 inhibs.
And I think a lot of it is because they've landed enough poke. The accuracy just increased for Maple and NL on these shots, and they're the ones that are killing the C9 team. Only Sneaky has reliable sustain after getting poked, so if Jensen gets
very far out here. He needs to be careful.
That crop is not worth it.
Oh no.
Meteos should get burned down here. GA is available. Flash over the wall for NL. Meteos gets his GA popped and will die for a Gromp.
That is an absolute disaster at this point in the game. What is he doing out there? He may have just cost his team, as Meteos is going to be down for 1 minute and 10 seconds. Such a long death timer, and he loses his GA.
Yes, that is not a type of play to be made on the world stage. 54 minutes in now with Baron and 2 inhibitors down. C9 would have to defend 4v5. At the very least, Meteos got a ward down when he came out of Gromp, and maybe Impact would use that as a teleport location. But no, he's in the front line here.
And Flash Wolves, they've split up as well. Sneaky throws out the ace in the hole. It does a fair amount of damage to Maple, but it won't matter. And these super minions being ushered into the base by Flash Wolves, and the bottom inhibitor is the focus for now, but a good trap line. You can't understate the value of those traps at this stage in the game. Good hit from Sneaky. Instantly healed up already by NL, and the tower will fall shortly.
Sneaky can't be in 2 places at once, though, and there's super minions on his Nexus turret, so that turret falls, and maybe even more.
Impact should be able to get SwordArt, not just yet. Very good defensive Aqua Prison. Equalizer is out. Inhibitor falls. All 3 are down. Double supers spawning. 3 seconds for Meteos to come up. SwordArt, the shockwave for a support. Chain of Corruption goes out. There's no equalizer.
There's the bubble.
Here's Impact is looking for a target. He stuns up Maple. That's the shutdown. But somebody has to defend supers. NL's running for his life. Meteos is looking for all. MFD is down. 75-second death timers. NL looking for Meteos. Karsa's coming to support. Meteos forced to dash away.
C9 needs to get more now. They need to push. They need to take down inhibitors and try to even out this game, because they are assaulted on all sides. At least try to get the Elder Dragon off the map.
3 inhibitors down requires full-time defenders. And the crowd is cheering him on.
There is no bigger challenge to come back from. Maybe no Nexus turrets, but let's be real. Supers in every single lane. 40-second death time is still for Flash Wolves. Karsa and NL up and around the Elder Dragon. Meteos and Smoothie are moving in. There is a very real steal potential here, although the rest of C9, they've come to contest as well.
It would be very risky for Flash Wolves to try to go for that steal, because if these guys die, they could just snowball this into a push.
Shockwave, not gonna get caught as NL's able to channel the Arcane Shift. True Shot Barrage, not secured.
Also remember, this is
goodness.
giving 50% more on that double Infernal, so they are very, very powerful if they could find a fight, but Flash Wolves gonna be likely just waiting it out.
I think so as well. With the 3 inhibitors down, they're down for so long now in this season of League of Legends. So it's the 5-man defense for C9 with the Elder Drake that is meant to discourage Flash Wolves from getting the team fight. We know how strong Sneaky can be, and thank goodness he has a Hurricane. Even with that, look how long it takes him to clear 1 wave of stacked minions.
Ladies and gentlemen, jump onto all of your social medias and call your family, your friends, your grandparents, and their pets. One of the most dramatic Worlds team fights could happen shortly. 60 minutes of game time. This is a rarity for nearly anybody on this level of game. And C9 may have bought enough time to withstand a triple inhibitor down. The fans are in favor. But the challenge is massive.
Coming back from 3 inhibitors is incredibly rare, but they have a lot of the recipes to do it if you're looking at C9. They have the better late game team composition. They did fall behind early, and they were against a team that has lacked decisiveness throughout most of the game and is a poke composition without much hard engage. So as far as actually getting the kills necessary to kill the Nexus turrets, Flash Wolves doesn't have as many tools as they would like.
They certainly don't, but Impact missing his flash, a major tool for Cloud9 to get in and get these team fights. And Meteos, as a secondary engage, has not looked comfortable, has not looked confident, has not been able to find those engages. Look at the GAs even picked up here. SwordArt has even grabbed himself one.
And there was one very interesting thing that happened in the last fight. Jensen killed SwordArt, who has the Mikhail's Crucible, and Maple has no cleanse and no QSS, probably because the Mikhail's was on SwordArt. So that allowed Impact to just kill Maple. If they can ever get that type of combination to happen again, they can very easily win a fight, and if they do it with their inhibitors up, they can...
Meteos goes in.
Meteos is looking for Karsa. Where's the support? Karsa's alone. Doesn't have a lot of damage. Dragon's Rage's been used, as well as the Ward Hop. Chain of Corruption, Equalizer. Smoothie escapes with his life. The Tidal Wave goes down too. Karsa doesn't get his GA popped, but there's a gigantic ultimate window in favor of C9.
Yeah, all important ultimates down for Flash Wolves, but still an inhibitor down, and they're continually on the back foot, about to crest 100,000 gold.
60 minutes is on the board. Baron is up in 40 seconds time. Flash and Teleport coming up for Impact.
500 CS on every C9 solo laner. Much gold that cannot even be spent. At this point, minion waves are not necessarily a tool for items, but more a tool for map pressure. All that C9 needs to do is they need to find a way to get their inhibitors up, push out of the base, and not be down a major objective. If Flash Wolves loses that pressure point, they would lose the game. But for now, what happened last time when they did this is C9 essentially got poked by a few Varus Qs and couldn't take down the Baron. Even with the Mountain Drake, Flash Wolves kills it incredibly quickly. Impact doesn't even have teleport, so it's getting dicey right now.
Yeah, Impact is coming over, but they're looking like they just want to commit to this. Will he be here in time? The Baron is going down very quickly.
Try another steal.
Oh,
this will be so risky. Flash Wolves hesitating. Impact is here now. Do Cloud9 go for it?
Meteos is in the pit. Meteos is behind Baron, gets caught. The shockwave, it's secured by Jensen. But who wins the fight?
Equalizer on them.
Comes down. Smoothie's in trouble. Gets the shield. Doesn't survive the piercing arrow. Impact is running for his life. Flash is available shortly, as is the slicing maelstrom. Baron for Cloud9!
And Jensen and Meteos combined that. They planned this out. They go in early, but they time the shockwave from Jensen with the Q smite from Meteos to steal it from a number that Karsa could not compete with.
And Jensen's ult is half off cooldown. Impact still has his with Flash, by the way. So this push, despite being 5v4, is still very dangerous for Flash.
Very dangerous. But Smoothie is down for 40. They need to be careful. C9 wants to hang on until their support can return. Also, look at the summoners for Cloud9. Missing almost across the board. Jensen and Sneaky are very vulnerable.
Impact's got a flash. Impact's got a maelstrom. Decides not to use it. Looking for the opportunity, and Flash Wolves realize it. They back away, but Flash Wolves, they're not relenting. They're still looking at the inhibs.
And Karsa ate a big amount of poke there from Impact, trying to get any edge that he possibly can. This game is so ridiculously close. 10 seconds on Smoothie.
And we have to talk about the pressure that is under these players in this game. This is Worlds. This is what you wait your entire year to hope to participate in. And both of these teams opened up yesterday with a loss. So if they can't pull out a 62-minute game, it would be devastating for their morale as they move towards the rest of the group stage. You can see the pressure impacting these teams. There's been plenty of mistakes, but it's all about who can deliver at this stage of the game.
And it's C9 making their first aggressive move in what feels like an eternity, taking down the tier 2 turret, poised to look for more.
All right, C9, let's see how much pressure they apply. Baron is still up. There's going to be a lot of focus in this top lane. True Shot Barrage does little to clear out that wave. 3 cannon minions under the tower. One of them just gets chunked down, and Cloud9 back away. Gentlemen, I know both of you cast the North American LCS, but these crazy, ridiculous 60-minute games happen in Europe frequently. So much so that we have a unique strategy where we sell items, buy Xerath Portal, put it down, and rebuy the item you sold. We're about to enter that funky territory where that's a legit strat.
The thing is, that was in the world of tanks of a lot of the regular season. We have AP champions in the top and the mid lane. So if anyone would buy Xerath Portal, it would have to be a Lee Sin or an Elise, and that doesn't make as much logical sense as you would want it to. So we're in this murky middle ground where a team has to take a risk in order for the game to change.
SwordArt is on the side, could be looking for the Nami ultimate. Impact does have his TP, but sometimes in these late game stages, if you're not there at the start of the fight, it can be too late. So he's gonna get this wave pushing. We'll see if he looks to rejoin the team.
There's so much tension. Base is still open. Cocoon goes wide. Meteos manages to survive. GA is available for him once again. Multiple GAs on the side of Flash Wolves. MMD has got the hourglass to stay alive longer. And whoever makes a mistake, that could cost their team the game and an 0-2 record at Worlds.
And at this point, Flash Wolves grouping up here, maybe looking for something. Any missed skill shot, any misused summoner can cost your team the game. And C9 pushing in.
And Flash Wolves' flank just isn't the same level of C9, so they were trying to just push them through, and Flash Wolves doesn't have the same way of fighting back aside from poke. It's the slow game that Flash Wolves can win team fights with.
C9 do need to be careful, though. They're very stacked, and the Rumble ultimate is devastating at this point in the game, so we'll have to see them play it very close to the chest.
Impact broke open that base an eternity ago. And that's where C9 are trying to find a way in. Baron has timed out. There are no more buffed up minions. Cloud9 remain fairly grouped for 5-man stack. While Flash Wolves are split up, there's no opportunity for Impact to flash ult engage.
Look at the top lane wave, though. It is going to be pushing in there for C9, I do believe, and that may cause someone from Flash Wolves to answer, but sneaky, look at that poke. He's got to heal up.
I really want to see the damage Maple is dealt at the end of this game with all of the piercing arrows he's been able to land in this one. We are approaching some pretty epic territory right now. The longest game in Worlds history was in 2014 when Fnatic and OMG played. That was multiple Nexus defenses later. That was 71 minutes. We are 6 minutes away from surpassing that here in San Francisco.
If I recall correctly, they had a Rumble and Elise as well in the game. I have to double check that one. As it stands, 110,000 gold apiece, 2 dragons to 3. Elder is up in 1 minute and 40 seconds. And our stats benders have confirmed there was Rumble Elise. It's irrelevant now, though, because however these guys perform is what matters in 2016.
ZZ Rod just got purchased by NL, and then he sells it, he rebuys. You can see the ZZ Rods getting dropped around.
All right.
So they've actually, 2 of them have been purchased here by Flash Wolves, and then they sell it, they rebuy their normal items. That's going to give them a nice little edge.
That's
I
smart.
come from a region where Unicorns of Love and Fnatic pioneered this ridiculous strategy. I was molded and trained for this game, and we need to see if Flash Wolves or Cloud9 can come out on top.
I apologize, I misunderstood the strategy. That makes more sense. I hear you properly this time. That is the strategy, makes perfect sense. 1 minute on Elder Drake. Will the Xerath minions actually start pushes on the C9 waves that prevent them from being able to contest the Elder Drake?
Is that 2 of them on the map? Is that
That's 2?
Flash Wolves have watched more EU LCS than NA LCS. They have learned the ridiculousness.
Look at this, though. Both of those waves are pushing right now, and C9 have to send defenders to that, which will make them cede vision control around the major objectives spawning in a minute.
1 minute to Baron, 30 seconds to Elder. Who calls the bluff? Meteos waiting on the flank. Impact is in the top lane. Teleport is up. He's dealing with the minions. but will arrive later than what MMD can perform. Meteos is dancing on the edge of safety.
One key thing to note, C9 has a lot of deep wards this time around, a lot of options for impact and TP in if Flash Wolves try to funnel in towards this Elder Dragon pit.
C9 kind of have to go. There's 8,000 gold in the inventory of Sneaky, just to show how much he's been farming here.
It's also getting very nerve-wracking for Meteos. He's very far away from his team. If he gets caught, he's
And
going in. He gets in, Maple!
Maple flashes away! Cloud9 have done it! But Impact, he throws down the Hourglass. The Maelstrom hasn't done enough.
Sneaky's
Karsa's looking for more. Sneaky's got help. Flash away! No, that was the GA. That's pop. Karsa's gonna come back to life. Stays alive a few seconds. Jensen gets another one. Cloud9 have got 2 kills!
And Meteos, the whole game, he's not able to perform. He comes up clutch, 67 minutes in, kicks in Maple, and that is gonna push C9 to go to the Baron.
C9 with 2 people dead and an open inhibitor on the bottom side can't push the bottom waves because of the Zerat minion stack. They should give them the Baron though and give them a much better chance of winning the game.
The rest of Flash Wolves are going for Elder, and the 6th man, the San Francisco crowd, go wild in support of the North American Cloud9.
They got the cheer down, they're in sync, they have the rhythm, and C9 is trying to feed off that energy. 68 minutes in, 20 seconds left on Maple, 30 on Karsa, and Elder Drake is up. C9 won it.
C9 moved to the Elder. It should be uncontested with such a long res timer on Karsa. And you have to think if there's any time for C9 to win the game, it's gonna be within this 2-minute span. They must make use of the Elder Dragon.
Elder Dragon, Baron, an inhibitor in the bottom lane. And Cloud9 have arrested control of the goal at the 69th minute.
Flash Wolves had this combination earlier on in the game and were only able to get 1 inhibitor off of it while they were doing it. This time C9 have all the items, all the advantages they would want, but there's still a whole bunch of poke and wave clear from Flash Wolves, so they still have to execute properly if they want this to work.
Also, small thing worth noting, the ZZ Rots did actually expire, so we'll see if anyone's gonna be willing to take the time to do that, and I don't think they will with the game at this point of tension. Impact's heading to topside, wants to push in the wave, and C9 must be careful here in the mid lane. They cannot afford to get caught.
No, they cannot. Impact's up in the top lane as well. This is a 5-on-4. If Flash Wolves want to fight, they have to do it while Impact's not with the team. Impact is guiding the minions into the top lane.
Yeah, C9 deem it too difficult to push directly through the Ezreal and the Varus, so they're trying to get multiple waves pushing at the same time. It's what you would need to do. I'm surprised they're not pushing the bottom wave, which already has the turret down. But maybe this is a strategy to try and get all of the outers down. Sneaky, with every rapid fire shot, takes a good chunk of that turret down.
Yeah, tower should fall. Flash Wolves, they use the tidal wave, they use the equalizer, sidestep away. Sneaky stays alive. MMD goes golden with the Hourglass. Here comes Impact. He cancels it. Impact's gonna come in the front lane. They've got it. They've killed him.
That's it.
May have just done it. They jump onto Karsa. It's a 5-on-3. Meteos is running for his life. Cocoon goes out. NL's looking for Impact. The super minions will now start pouring through. Baron and Elder, and everything is with Cloud9.
At the very least, it's 2 inhibitors, but it could very well be the game if they proceed properly.
Look at NL. He has to do the work. There's hundreds of minions in the base. NL is chunked up.
One turret down.
For his life. The Nexus turret goes down. The Nexus turret number 2 is killed. And Cloud9, they don't give up. They don't surrender. And they take down Flash Wolves.
Cloud9 have done it in one of the most amazing games I have ever seen. 70 minutes, they never give up, and they are the ones who will walk away victorious.
The second longest game in the history of Worlds. 247,000 gold spread across the 2 teams. Thousands of minions down, but 1 victory for C9, and it matters.
You have to feel that this game could set the pace for the rest of their group. The mental impact that this has on Flash Wolves, losing again in a marathon game like this was not the start they wanted. And for C9, Impact with a big resurgence. Jensen 603 in this game. They came up huge.
And you point that out, the fact that Jensen is 6-0-3 in a 70-minute game where Flash Wolves were trying to chase them around the map entirely. After being caught out so often against SKT yesterday, to bounce back in such an impressive fashion, is why we watch Worlds.
Even Meteos, slow start to the game, but it was him. He kicks in on Maple in the last 2 team fights, and he came up huge for the team.
Flash Wolves, they have to find some more decisive play in their game. 2 times on the world stage, they have had magnificent leads, but been unable to press them further, and it was that lack of decisiveness that allowed Cloud9 the opportunities and the windows to come back in, and Cloud9 seized them.
And their strength has kind of become their weakness. 27-0 in the LMS with these leads, 0-2 now at Worlds.
And I want to talk briefly about Meteos, because I think for the first 40 minutes of this game, it was one of the worst Worlds performances he has ever had. But as the game continued, he improved, and he was the one who made many of the big plays that prompted this game to end. He just started finding the right flanks and just making the right play, flashing, kicking someone directly back, and those are the types of initiations that actually were able to secure the win for C9.
They certainly will, and it speaks a lot to his mental fortitude to not get too frustrated, to keep going for those correct plays. You know, you talk about getting scared of making the right play because it goes wrong, and this was something that he certainly didn't do here.
And you cannot understate the fact that Cloud9, despite being behind, what was it, 4,000 gold, they had huge CS advantages in top and middle lane.
Yeah.
And it was that CSing power of Impact and Jensen that allowed them to survive that mid-game trough of the Orianna and Caitlyn.
And not just the CS